Hi, this is Jason Nickleby, Assistant Director with the Minnesota State High School League, and this is training tape number 3 for basketball officiating. We're going to take a look at some plays involving verticality, legal guarding position, as well as screening. So, going to talk through some of those things and the mechanics as we handle those types of plays. And again, we're not picking on any one official or crew or team or player, just trying to learn from these plays and facilitate some discussion as we prepare for our games each night. So, thanks to all of you for your work. Travel safe out there. Weather's creating challenges like it always does, but appreciate all of you and your really hard work in helping the schools and the kids play basketball. So, with that, let's take a look at some plays. On this play, I want to talk about legal guarding position as it relates to undercutting an opponent, jumping on an opponent, those kinds of things. So you see on this play, we have a loose ball out across from the bench area, and the defensive player dives for it and undercuts the player from the offensive team who gets to the basketball first. And that's his spot. He's entitled to, and you can't take someone out just to get to the basketball or for the reason of getting to the basketball. If this would be football, no problem. But in basketball, can't do that and was properly called for a foul. I think we do a pretty good job overall on undercut plays like this of calling this as a foul. I think where we can see some improvement is dive on plays. So a loose ball, players diving for the ball, there's a potential for a held ball, and we have a player just dive on top of another player for the purpose of getting a held ball. And I think we have a tendency to let those go a little bit and allow those to play out as held balls. But in all reality, when they're jumping on them like that, that is a pushing foul. That is not a legal basketball play, and we should be putting air in the whistle on those kinds of plays. But in this particular situation, we have a player who gets undercut. When we're diving like that, again, not legal guarding position. So if we make contact, that contact is illegal and is properly called for a foul in this situation. So just keep that in mind. Undercuts, those kind of things, safety related fouls, we need to get those. And then when they dive on players or push them out of the way to get to a loose basketball to try to create a held ball, those are fouls as well. We need to make sure that we're on top of those. But nice job by the trail official in this case. All right, this is a really interesting play. We have a shot attempt. We're in really good position, by the way. Trail takes a step down towards the basket. Then we get an offensive rebound and we go right back towards the basket. So a couple things that we need to consider on this play from a rules perspective and most importantly, mechanics. So you see we have this offensive rebound. So first of all of these defensive players are primary defenders. Remember when we have an offensive rebound and we go right back towards the basket, we do not have any secondary defenders at that point. So in this case, if this defender would have been in the restricted area establishing initial legal guarding position, we still could have a player control foul. Now, what we have here is the lead is calling a foul against the player who approaches the offensive player, the shooter from behind, the passer in this case, actually, and has a foul on that player from behind versus a player control foul for running over the defender number 23. Okay, so mechanically, leads, this is our primary responsibility. So I'm glad that the lead is taking this. We do come onto the floor, want to make sure we stay back. Don't cheat to the other end of the court until we know that possession is gained and we're going the other direction. But if we're taking this play as lead, which we should, this is our responsibility. It's right there. We're going to take the crash portion when we have a pass and crash situation. The crash portion is going to go to the lead because we want either the center or the trail to divert their attention, their focus to the passing portion. So you see this play here, number 11 dishes the ball off to the left. We would want the center to take the player who receives the pass and rule on that action, and the lead would rule on the crash portion. In this particular case, the lead has a foul on the player coming from behind, and what we want to do, which is what we do here, we want to close down on this action, step towards it, indicate with spot mechanics what the foul is, who it's on, because obviously there's going to be some confusion by people watching, participating, so forth, thinking that this may be an offensive foul. Because if we don't have this foul from behind, it's going to be a player control foul on this player number 11. Instead, we have a foul from behind. Now, the other mechanics piece of this is we need to have a discussion as a crew about what we're doing relative to shooting free throws or not, because in this particular case, we indicate that we are going to shoot 2 free throws when this really was a passing situation. So we should have had a throw in on the end line instead of shooting free throws, because we ultimately pass the ball. So slow ourselves down, process, close down towards the action, indicate with spot mechanics who the foul is on, so forth. And then we do need to communicate as a crew about spot, throw in, or free throws, or what we're doing next. But overall, handled real well, just some mechanics things to consider. Couple things mechanically to point out on this play, and then just philosophy pieces as well. So you see we have a block shot, and it gets thrown up court pretty quickly, and we have a dunk at the other end. So pretty well handled as far as judgment is concerned, not anticipating that a foul was going to occur. It looks a little bit ugly at the end, but ultimately, if you watch it in slow motion, you'll notice that this defender goes up to the highest point of the basketball and gets the basketball as part of a clean block. So this is well done as far as our judgment, allowing this to play out, not anticipating that a foul was going to occur, even though it may look ugly. And then remember, trails, we need to be a little bit closer to the 28-foot line. I think when we're too high like this, this is a kind of play that can bite us, because we're looking right through the shooter's back. And if we guess, we're going to guess wrong. And if we're working lower on this play, we're going to be looking right between players. We can see space, and we can see for sure that no contact occurred. So trails, we need to work lower so that we're looking and seeing space. And then we would even take another step or two towards the end line at the time of the shot to close down on this particular play. But good job of not anticipating a foul. That was well done. And then when we go back in transition, the best possible thing we probably can do on this is just stop at the free throw line extended and officiate this play. Don't want to stay even up with the players, because we're going to get straight lined on it. Come to a stop, officiate it like we would as a center official, like we do the whole game on the play at the basket. There really wasn't much to judge on this particular play, but just something to think about as we go back in transition. So trails, let's work a little bit lower and close down. Good job of not anticipating. And then our transition mechanics, let's come to a stop if we can't get to the end line prior to the action. But well done by the crew on this play. Okay, on this play, we're coming up in transition, and we get into our initial positions, and then we have a pretty quick shot attempt, which is successful. I want you to take a look at the screening action right by the shooter, and you'll notice that the defender just hip checks the defender right out of the way, and we don't have a whistle on this play, and we would want one here for an illegal screen on this offensive player. We need to get to the spot in advance of the player being screened, as long as we're facing them, there's no time or distance required. We just need to get to that spot first. When we set a blind screen, we need to give him a step, but in this case, he clearly can see him. So there's no time or distance requirement. However, we can't move into them or displace them by pushing or extending our hip, those kinds of things. We need to beat him to the spot, and he does not do that here. So this should be a foul for an illegal screen. Now, mechanically, we want to have two sets of eyes on screening action whenever possible when it's by the basketball. When a screen is away from the basketball, then whoever's the primary responsible official for that area would be the one that would rule on the legality of screening in their area. Now, in this case, it's on ball, so we need to have two sets of eyes on this. So the trail should have vision on this as well as the center. It's difficult for the center on this play because the center also has the shot attempt and the ball handler to worry about. And so we would like this whistle to come from trail in this particular instance, if possible. But two sets of eyes would really help us to pick this up. And remember, we need to get to the spot before the player being screened gets there. We can't extend our elbow or our hip or displace them in any way outside of normal legal screening action. So this is a foul we would want called. We would want two sets of eyes on it if possible when it's involving a screen and the ball. Off-ball screens, whoever the primary official is for ruling on that area would be the one that would take that play. This is a really interesting play where we have several judgments relative to verticality in a very short period of time for the same official to deal with. So we first have a pass that goes into the paint, and the offensive player turns and goes to the basket, and the defender has legal guarding position and maintains it legally. And if any contact is created, it's created by the offensive player here. So I like the no call. I think that's really good judgment to not have a defensive foul on the shooter. We want to protect shooters, but we also want to make sure that we allow defenders to play legal defense, and I think that he does so here. Now, the second aspect you'll see is that after the shot attempt is missed, the offensive player, the shooter in this case, goes straight to the basket from where he is to try to make a play on the ball for a rebound, and there's some subsequent contact, and the defender goes to the floor. Unfortunately for him, the ball goes off of him, and we're going to have a spot throw in under the basket for the offensive team. Obviously, the defensive team feels that this offensive player displaced him, but I think this is really good judgment as far as a no call is concerned. Both of them go in a straight line to the basket, and in this case, any contact that was created by the leg of the defender, and subsequently he goes to the ground after the contact is made. So not all contact is illegal. Not all ugly plays are illegal. We need to know how they got to the floor. We need to be able to explain that. But in this particular case, I believe both players go straight at the basket. That's their space to occupy. And if there's any contact that's made, I think it's incidental in nature. So two tough verticality plays, situations, right in a row for the lead, and I think the lead gets them both correct. So well done by the lead on this play, using good judgment and utilizing the principles of verticality. On this play, we're coming down in transition, and we get right into the front court offense, and you're going to see we have a defender who chucks the cutter from the offensive team, and it is picked up by the lead. This is excellent primary area officiating. We need to be ready to officiate as soon as we get into the front court. We don't get to coast, especially as the lead. We need to be ready and officiate our off-ball responsibilities so that they don't get away with these types of fouls. He clearly elbows and chucks the offensive player that is cutting and is properly called for a foul. Chucking the cutter is not a thing. It is not a strategy. It is a foul. When they do this kind of action, it needs to be penalized with a foul, and the only way that that's going to happen is if we are concentrating very hard on our primary area of responsibility so we can pick these kinds of things up and know how contact occurred, who initiated the contact, who didn't, why did a player go to the ground, why were they displaced. In this particular case, the lead does an excellent job of focusing on his primary area of responsibility. He's ready to officiate, and he picks up this illegal chucking, pushing action by the defender. So this is really well done by the lead. Outstanding mechanics and focus on our primary. On this last play, I want to talk about traveling and then also our mechanics and positioning. So you see here we have a traveling violation that's called by the trail. And you'll notice that in the process of this play, the lead is flexing, rotating over, and the new trail, he does not come out too deep. He stays right at the 28-foot mark, and as a result, he picks up this traveling violation. I think if he would have been too high, he would not have been in very good position to see this action. So really well done, positioning and mechanics-wise, not bailing, staying put so that you can officiate this action. And remember that trails, you're going to have primary responsibility for traveling. It's not that leads can't pick it up, but we are the ones that have a better vantage point of when the basketball gets picked up and then picking up the pivot foot and so forth. And then anytime that we have a whistle for a foul or violation, let's make sure we go with a fist or open hand first. Don't go with the blocking foul or the violation signal, whether it's traveling or double dribble or whatever happens to be. Let's not do that first. Let's just do hand in the air, fist in the air first, because you notice that the lead also has a whistle here, either a block or charge. And if that's what the trail also is going with, which we don't want the trail to rule on a foul at the basket like this, then we could have a blarge. So just make sure that we slow down on our preliminary signals, especially from trail or center. Lead, let's slow it down and just put a fist or hand in the air, and then we can communicate as a crew about, I have a traveling violation that occurred before the foul, or I have a foul before the traveling, or those kinds of things. So in this case, we have a traveling violation that precedes any type of foul. And if you look at the replay here, you'll see that the player gathers the basketball right around the three-point line and goes left foot with the pivot foot, right foot down, picks the left foot up, and puts it back down, which is a traveling violation. Remember, when we establish the pivot foot, we can pick it up to pass or shoot, but if we put it back down or we dribble while we pick up that pivot foot, it would be a traveling violation, and this is properly called by the trail. And I believe it's because we have excellent positioning and we don't bail. That's why we're able to see this particular action. So well done by the crew on this play of picking this up, and good job of having very nice positioning and mechanics. Okay, that will do it for training tape number 3. We're doing a great job out there, working hard. It's that time of the year where it starts to get a little bit harder after we've been going at it for 2 months, and there's a physical toll. There's sickness out there, like always. And we just need to make sure we're on top of our physical health, even our mental health. Just make sure you're on top of that. We want you to be in the best possible shape, mainly for you, but also so you can be the best possible official you can be. So keep up the good work, stay on top of your health, and good luck this weekend. Travel safe with the weather, and we will talk to you next week.